Welcome to Ambassador, the home of finely crafted outdoor spaces. Spaces for your home, your workplace, your education space. So we specialise in the design, creation and installation of garden buildings for use as home studios, home office, home gym, home bar maybe. The possibilities are endless, but this is where your project begins. We're here at the workshop, which is nestled in the heart of the South Downs in Droxford. And it just seems fitting that your project should begin its journey in the natural beauty of the South Downs. Let's come and take a look, see how it all begins. So this is the workshop office where your project begins. The design is carried out, CAD drawings, panel schedules, before we then move into the workshop. So as you can see, we're situated in a converted mill building, part of an old farm complex, and it suits our purpose. We've got materials stored here, the roof panels, the floor panels, the engineered beams for the lintel across your doors, OSB sheathing board. We've got the timber store here, where we store our cladding, our framing material, treated timber, pressure treated timber for durability. We want your building to last. Everything is handcrafted by our master craftsmen. Your project is handled with care from start to finish. This is the bench that we make our panels on. So as you can see here, it's at a convenient height for working from for these large panels. We've got a perfect right angle in the corner here to make sure that every panel is created perfectly. The timbers are laid on, as we will see in a minute, and nailed together. We've got these swing beams just for ease of use of the nailing guns, Senko. We've got a Festool domino cutter, we've got a DeWalt router, and of course the all-important dust extraction unit. Once again, Festool, we only work with the best. We hope that you choose to work with the best. Ambassador. It's a very simple process. Once the timber is cut for one panel, it's stacked at the end of the table here. The head and the base plates are laid in position before fixing the studs using the air nailer. With the frame constructed now, it's time to notch out the slots ready for installation of the wiring loom. This is done using the Festool domino cutter, which cuts a 40mm wide slot that the wiring loom plugs will fit through. With the structural frame completed now, it's time to apply the OSB sheathing material. OSB oriented strand board. It's an engineered sheathing board which gives rigidity to the frame. With the board all fixed onto the frame, it's time to just run the router trim cutter around the outside. The panel is now complete and ready to be stacked in preparation for loading and delivery to your site. The panels are safely secured to the trailer and delivered to your home in as few loads as possible, just to minimise impact on deliveries. We're here at Hambrook's Garden Centre. Very pleased to have been invited to install a show building showing off our latest design of garden building. When we were invited, I took a look at the Hambrook's Garden Centre, and it promised to be a mini Chelsea flower garden. So this is definitely a garden centre with a difference. As you meander your way through the canopy, you can stop and look at all these little gardens for inspiration. Very well set out. And here we are, where the Ambassador Garden building is going to be installed. Hambrook's are landscape designers, but also landscaping contractors. So they've been working hard to get this whole garden centre rejuvenated. They've put in a concrete base for us. Let's get started. So we've got the first delivery of materials for the garden building. This particular building is a 6 metre by 3 metre building, and on the first delivery we have the roof panels, the insulated floor panels and the wall panels, which will be unloaded on the first day. Then typically on the third or fourth day there will be the interior cladding, the exterior cladding, the windows and the doors and the roof flashings. So just 2 deliveries and that's your garden building on site, ready to be installed. So one of the key features of our delivery of our garden building project is minimal impact. Your garden is special to you. We want to have as minimal impact as possible when we're constructing the garden building. So it starts off with a foundation, which typically we will use a galvanised ground screw. So again, no digging, no concrete. This will be wound into the ground. It's pre-calculated, designed by a specialist subcontractor that we use. And that will be wound in until that plate is just approximately 50 millimeters from the ground level. Once the ground screws have been installed, it's time to install the weed barrier. This weed barrier gets laid beneath the garden building between the ground screws, just to make sure that no weeds grow up underneath the garden building once it's been installed. However, on this particular project, we have the luxury of a concrete base, which has been laid by the excellent Hambrooks landscaping team. So we have the timber ring beam, which is 150 by 50 millimeter timber. 2 timbers which are screwed together in our workshop, pre-measured, pre-cut, screwed together using timber lock screws. And if it's being laid onto a concrete base, it's just important to make sure that that timber is packed up off the concrete base. And we've got these recycled plastic packers, which are just placed just to pack that up so that that timber isn't sat in the water, in the wet. So we lay out the plastic spacers before bringing in the timber ground beam. It's a nice snug fit, all pre-measured and cut in the workshop. With the ring beam all positioned, it's time to lock the beam together with timber screws, timber lock screws, 6.7 millimeter by 150 millimeter long, patented, corrosion resistant. So with the timber subframe completed, it's time to bring the insulated floor panels onto site. So this is a 100mm steel panel insulated core, and as you can see, it is a tongue and groove system. You've got the tongue on that side, the groove on that side, and it will just interlock together to give a rigid flooring system that is both rot proof and rodent proof. Before we fix them with the screws, it's important to check the diagonals to make sure that the building is square. Once the floor panels are all in place, then we fix them using these wafer head pan screws. The wall panels have all been unloaded. They're sitting here on the footprint of the building, and now it's time to erect the panels and let the building start to take shape. And the first corner is erected and screwed together using 87mm timber lock screws. So having completed one elevation, you will see that the building very quickly begins to take shape. So with the wall panels all now erected, it's time to put the beam across the door opening, which can span that measurement without deflection. That is really important to make sure that we get no deflection on this beam, otherwise it will impact the door frame and your bifold doors will end up jamming. So get the beam on, make sure it's up the right way, which is indicated by this label here. This is the top, and we get that on and secure that into position. So with the beam in position, it's just important to make sure that is central and the bearing is equal on either side. So before we fix the beam in place, we clamp one end before going to the opposite end of the beam and plumbing up the end wall. So we then fix using timber lock screws up through the underside of the engineered joist to hold that in place before fixing the lintel. With the panels all in place now, it's important to fix an extra piece of timber around the top to act as a ring beam, which is minimum 75 by 50mm timber. That just locks all the individual panels together for extra rigidity. So with the ring beam now complete, and it's time to locate the roof sheets. So it is carefully leant up against the back before manoeuvring it up and onto the front edge. Then the sheet can be carefully manoeuvred, taking very special care not to scratch the underside, and positioned equally on the front and back wall. So as you can see, all the roof sheets are in position now. We do some final alignment before fixing down through the top of the sheet into the stud walls, and that just holds the stud walls plumb and gives that last bit of rigidity to to make sure that that building is completely rigid and solid. So this particular building is one of our signature range of garden buildings, which includes an oak frame detail on the front canopy. So we get the oak frame machined. We're not going to pretend that we handcraft it in our workshop. This is actually machined, CNC machined. So as you can see here, we've got the corner braces, which are all, the tenons are all notched out with the holes for the dowels. And this one here has got some dummy rafters, which will slot in underneath the canopy. And the back is all machined out, so that it will all just fit together like a glove. The mortise and tenon joints are locked together and just secured using the oak dowels before lifting the goalpost into place. The coloured sheeting is then fitted to the underside of the soffit, and the dummy rafters are knocked into place. We then move on to installation of the bifold doors. So with the doors now securely fixed, it's time to glaze the doors. It's very important to make sure that the glass is packed correctly so that the doors don't drop over time. So the first thing to do when starting the cladding is to install the starter trim. It's important to get the corner trims fixed before you then work back from each corner. Once the corner trim is in place, then you can work your way along each face installing the cladding boards. Typically you fix through the tongue of each board with the discrete stainless steel screws, and each adjacent board will cover the fixing. We work around the facade, taking care to fit the electrics through the cladding as we go. Once the cladding is fitted, we install the flashings around the doors and fit the windows securely. It's important just to make sure that we provide a weather-tight seal, so we mastic around each window. We then fit the external low-level lights. Then it's time to install the wiring loom internally, and the building is insulated. So as you can see, the walls are all now fully insulated and the wiring loom has been installed. The wiring loom has all been pre-manufactured in an electrical factory, and it's all just simple plug and play system. We're very much focused on getting as much done off-site. Firstly, for quality. If something is done in the workshop, done in the factory, you're bound to get a better job, but also just for speed. We want to spend as little time in your garden as possible, get the building built for you. We're ready to start thinking about the decking step out the front of the building. Now this is an optional extra. It's quite a nice feature to have, to be able to step out onto decking. So once again, we will use these plastic packers just to bring the framework up off the concrete, and then we will install the decking on top of the framework. So for the step, we've pre-manufactured a timber frame which can then be dropped into place onto the packers that will just tuck in up against the structure and be fixed securely. So with the framework installed for the decking step, the next thing we do is pull the wires through for the little inline LED lights which are actually set into the decking. So that gives quite a nice subtle light across the front of the building, quite a nice feature. A 25mm diameter hole is drilled into the decking, and then the light will fit into the plank. The front of the step has a fascia fixed to it, which is in the same style as the planks on the top of the step, or they can be in a contrasting colour. It's your choice. So with the fascia now complete, it's time to start installing the planks onto the deck. So we've pre-calculated to make sure that the planks will all fit, the gaps all even around the planks, and it's time to screw the first plank in place. So when starting out on the decking boards, the first 2 rows are the most important. So as you can see there, we've got it all very carefully packed to make sure there's an even gap between the boards. So it's now time to think about the internal cladding. On this particular example, we are cladding it with impact resistant coloured and textured melamine board. Now it's really important for us to make sure that we get the cuts absolutely true. So we don't take any chances. We use a track saw to make sure that that cut is perfect. So with the panel cut to length, it's now time to cut out the socket. Once the hole is cut out, we can secure the double socket into place into the panel. So the panel has now had the double socket fitted and it's ready to fit into place. So with the board now secured in place, overspanning the window opening, we use a router trim cutter, cut the board perfectly to suit the window opening size. Time to install the LED rebate strip. Before we put the acoustic slatted panels in place, we're securing the LED drivers within the stub work. We have an acoustic slatted wall at one end. We're going to just trim back the timber slats to allow for the rebate for the LED strip. With the wall panels complete, it's time to install the LVT flooring, which is chosen for its durability. And then there's the installation of the statement feature, which is this forged stainless steel louver by Will Normandale at the Wheelie Down Forge. Let's take a step back to when we visited the forge. As you can see, the building is now complete. The windows, the doors are in, the cladding is finished, the oak work is in, the lighting is now turned on, and all that is left is to give the building a deep clean. Make sure that you're absolutely happy with the product that we hand over to you. With the building now complete, we had the opportunity to catch up with Emily to get her views on the completed project. Let's see what she had to say.
Hi there, my name's Emily and I'm with Hambrooks here in our Titchfield Garden Centre. You can see our brand new garden building by Ambassador Buildings. I'm here with Glenn today to talk you through a little bit about this project.
Yeah, well, we're delighted to hand over our recently completed console building, which is part of the signature range of our garden buildings. And we feel quite honoured to have been invited by you at Hambrooks to put one of our buildings in your show gardens, because you've got quite an arena here, haven't you?
We do.
Tell us a bit about the facility here you have at Park Gate.
So we've recently redone all of our show gardens, and there are numerous gardens with different materials. So we've got a little bit of everything for everyone, and this fantastic new addition is a perfect mix between something a bit modern and something a bit more traditional, and it shows people perhaps there is another option for their gardens other than just grass.
We certainly feel this is something that will complement your garden designs going forward as your clients need them. So whether it's a home office, home gym, home studio, maybe a home bar, those a little bit more adventurous, maybe just somewhere to escape.
Absolutely, and we think it's just fantastic, so we're very grateful to have worked with you.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely design. You could say crafted for life.